say, for example, you know, you might be, who knows, enlisted, you could be an officer or whatever, and you're just not in with like the CEO or the sergeant major or the higher ups, right? And they're looking to, I guess, you know, they're looking to ruin your life, right? Or that's what you feel like. Is it, how do you as an attorney, like, how do you prove that? And how do you make that to their benefit when they're actually going to court? And the second part of that question is because the military has their own officers, do you believe, and it might sound like a self-promotional question here, but do you believe it's better to have an outside attorney versus a military attorney in that particular situation when you're being, I guess, ganged up upon?
Yeah, I guess the first determination is the commander really out to get you? Or do you just feel that way because you were caught doing something wrong? Maybe you came up positive on 3-year analysis. Oh, the command's out to get me. Well, no, they're kidding. They're out to get you because you came up hot for weed 3 times. And stop telling me that someone put something in your drink, or you were at a party and you took someone's vape pen. It's just garbage, right? It's so trite and played out that I hear this all the time. So if that's the case and you've pissed hot 3 times in a row and you're late for formation, the command's out to get you, and they probably shouldn't be. You probably shouldn't be in the military, right? So that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it is there are times when the commander really is out to get someone. And if that happens, and how do you prove that? Well, you've got to really look at the case and look at the command's actions and what actions they're taking against you. But how do we defend against that? The issue is you can't be sidetracked by trying to defend against the command hates me. You have to really look at what you're being accused of, what you're charged with, and have laser focus in terms of defending those particular charges. Now, if there's things that the command is doing that are illegal, then you can fight that. And there's something called Article 13 of the UCMJ, which if there's illegal pretrial punishment, then you can oftentimes, file a motion with the military judge and get injunctive relief from the judge, or even get time off a potential sentence from the judge. So if there are things the command is doing that are illegal and they're punishing you inappropriately before trial, and I've seen all sorts of crazy examples of that, you can file for injunctive relief. I mean, a case I had, it was a long time ago. The client's name was Berg. His last name was Berg, and what they did, because he got in trouble out in what's area called the Ville. It was out in Korea. So they restricted him to his room, and they wouldn't let him leave the room. And so they lined up a bunch of MREs outside and wrote Berg food, B-E-R-G food. It's supposed to like bird food. It's kind of funny, right? So they wrote Berg food, and they stacked him up outside of his room and took pictures of it. And they kept on saying, give him the Berg food, right? And so we took photographs of this, and they gave him a lot of shit for it. And that was illegal. The command can't do that because it's humiliating. And this is something that was directed. Really, the first sergeant of the command did it. And so that's an example where this is clearly wrong. And we went to a judge, and the judge ordered basically the equivalent of injunctive relief for it to stop. And he got, confinement time credit. So there are examples. If it gets to that level. The other one was kind of interesting. I like to tell stories. I had a Marine out in Okinawa. So there again, both of these stories are always out of Korea or Okinawa, right? So this was out in Okinawa. They had a Marine, and what they wanted him to do was they gave him check-in stations. They put him in full kit, and they made him check in at 06, 8, and like every 2 hours or 2-3 hours. And what they did is they spaced the the check-in location. This was up at Camp Hansen, or I believe it was Camp Hansen. So he would never have to stop walking during the day, because if he stopped walking, he'd miss the check-in location. And so literally they had him from 06 to like 1800 nonstop walking. Rain, shine, sun, heat. He never stopped walking until he could check in. They gave him like 15 minutes for chow. And all he did for months was in full kit, walking from one check-in point to another. This is very, very Marine Corps-esque. And so we sent memorandums to the command saying to stop it. And they said, no, we're not going to stop it. Sorry, this is just operational necessity, which was garbage. And we went to a military judge, and it was eventually stopped. And so those are examples of things a command may do to you, make you walk all day in full battle rattle or full kit, humiliate you, that are illegal. And if that happens, you need an attorney to step in and stop it. Barring that threshold, which a lawyer can pretty clearly tell you what meets that threshold or not, you need to focus in on the charges at hand and make sure you win those charges, because the saying is winning solves everything, right? So if the command is pissed off at you and they're making your life hell, it goes to trial and you win, well, then awesome. Then you get the final last laugh. You're probably going to leave that command, go someplace else and move on with your career. So the adage of winning solves everything is really the mantra we take on. Now, the second part of your question is, do you need someone outside the system in those cases? And typically I say yes, because now you have a command that's going to be an 03, potentially 04, 05, 06, and your lawyer's probably going to be a junior 03, maybe a mid-level 03 at best, maybe a senior one, but somewhere likely a captain. Now you have to have a captain who is in this billet for a year, 18 months, or 2 years, really go to war with a battalion commander or a brigade commander. And sometimes they have the backbone to do that. And unfortunately, most don't. And that's not necessarily a reflection on them. That's a reflection of the culture that they're in. They are young captains. They know that they're in a defense billet for a year or 2 years, and then they're going to have to go back out to the SJ or to another billet. How many times are you really going to go to war with battalion or brigade commanders? Oh, by the way, who may be rating you potentially or in your chain of command at a future duty station. So you may have a lawyer who has the ability to do that, but just you're often better off just going to the outside, because I don't have a rank. I'm not in the military anymore. If I was still in, I'd probably be in 06. And so I have no problem whatsoever challenging them if they're doing something wrong or calling them out on it, because I can, and it doesn't affect my promotion whatsoever, because obviously I don't have to worry about being promoted at this point in time in my life. I'm a civilian.